Hey, what's going on, everybody? Manny here once again. Welcome to DFS Zone, your source for daily fantasy sport lineup advice for the NBA and the NFL. Got a brand new video for you guys today. We have a 3-game slate in the association again tonight. But before I get started with some possible plays for us, I appreciate you guys drop a like on the video. And if you're new to the channel, it's your first time here, never seen any of my NFL or NBA lineup advice videos, the only thing you have to do to become a part of the DFS Zone community here is to subscribe down below and make sure you put on your post notifications. This way you don't miss out on any of my NBA or NFL lineup advice videos. With that being said, today is Thursday, November the 15th, 2018. 3-game slate in the association today. Not a pretty slate. There are 2 games that look like pretty intriguing, Golden State and Houston, and San Antonio and the Clippers. Obviously, there's one game that looks pretty pitiful for tonight, and that's the Atlanta-Denver game. Probably a game that maybe you should fade, at least for me. I'm not going to have a lot of exposure to that game. I prefer, obviously, to put my lineups around the Golden State-Houston game and the San Antonio Los Angeles Clipper game. All right, so let's just dive right in, man. Just like I did the other day with the 3-game slate. When it comes to these 3-game slates, obviously everybody is available. Everybody's in play. It's just about finding the right combinations. I think you could definitely, in my opinion, you can definitely go today with studs and scrubs. You can definitely do something like that, at least a lineup or 2. I know I will have some exposure to something like that if I can definitely, put the lineups together. So I'm going to do that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same thing as I did the other day. I'm just going to basically give you what are my, I would say my favorite plays at this very moment. That may change by the end of the day. There is some injury news like the Alex Lynn situation as well as Mr. Jokic. So that may open up the doors for, at least for me, I will have an interest in the Plumlee brothers. Other than that, anything can change from here to the end of the afternoon. So this way, stay involved with the Slack chat. I'll put another invite in there in today's description of the video below. It seems like that's only 24 hours, so that's my fault if you have tried going in there. I think you have to put in a new link every day. But that's a good place for us to be able to interact and discuss the slate a little bit further, like around 6 o'clock or so. A lot of the people that are involved come in there. And it's a lot of great guys, a lot of people putting their input, sharing their lineups, and getting, feedback from everybody, including myself. So that is pretty darn good. All right, so what I'm going to do is like I did the other day, I'm just going to basically put up my point guard, shooting guard. I'm going to put them up and click on them on the screen here as I go. So this way you can at least see more or less what we have and what we have left as far as a budget. And then maybe even at the very end of the video, I'm going to probably put those 5 into my Fantasy Cruncher, and we'll crunch them down and we'll optimize them and see what the optimizer on Fantasy Cruncher comes up with a few of these players. Okay? All right, so let's dive right in, man. So at point guard, Chris Paul in play. I'm not high on him today. 9,000, you need 40. It's a big number. And granted, he is at home. I kind of, I think I said this before, when it comes to the Houston guys, it's either I'm going to be on Paul or I'm going to be on Harden. I'm more in favor of Harden today just because of his upside of getting 60 or 70. And even though he has not had great numbers against Golden State and vice versa for Durant, he has not put up large numbers. Huge numbers against Houston as well. So you probably could fade both of those guys today. But I would think if I'm going to play anybody, I'll probably play Harden simply because he is at home. And he has a tendency of playing a lot better at home as well. So Chris Paul, not in play for me. Jamal Murray, he's at home. I like to play him at home, but his price is so high and he's so inconsistent. And he just, he either gives you 50 or he could give you 40, 45, 50 on a given night and then maybe go 2 or 3 nights in a row where he only gives you 20 to 25. So my concerns is that he's not consistent enough. So I am going to fade him at least at the moment. I don't plan to play him today. I'm going to come all the way down to Mr. Alexander. I know his price is up. He's 6,000. I'm trying to find somebody here who's at least trending upward and is playing well and is getting minutes. And he has been doing that with the Clippers. And the Clippers have been playing well with this guy on the court. They really have. The Clippers have been pretty surprising to me that they've been in a lot of the games that they've played in. But 38, 39, 35 minutes, I love that. He's averaging 10 points, 3.3 rebounds, 3 assists, 22 fantasy points per game at 6. That's way above his fantasy point totals. But like I said, he is trending upward. So they're trying to, and again, another thing also, I've said this before, anytime there's 2 or 3 game slates, Fanduel and DraftKings are going to price up the players. So just keep that in mind. More so Fanduel than DraftKings. DraftKings is a little, they may adjust it a little bit. maybe a couple $100, but FanDuel, they just get crazy. So this price here at 6 is a little high for a 22 average, but he is putting the sufficient minutes for that price, and he has been playing in the last 2 games. He's put up that kind of fantasy point total. So I can respect the 6,000, and going into a small slate like this and not really having a whole lot of options, I kind of like where he's trending to. He's trending on the upward. I'd love to see how much more this kid can give us. So I'm willing to take a stab at him at 6K. 6,000, you need 30. Okay, you need 30, and it's not like he can't get it. He did 33 in the last game against Golden State, put up a 39 spot against Milwaukee. We'll take a look at him a little bit closer over here. And Mr. Alexander. And he is, right now at the moment, he's averaging about 17% usage rate when he's on the floor. The minutes are there. The last 3 games have been fantastic. And as you can see, he's been trending up 27, 39, and 33 as far as fantasy points. And he's getting shots. He's getting the opportunity to be a part of the offense. And he's taking full advantage of it. 8 of 11 in the last game. That is fantastic shooting. 5 of 13, 7 of 12. He's even putting up 2 to 3 threes a game, and he's pretty much done well there as well. 2 of 3 here and 2 of 2 here. He's getting to the foul line. And what I like about him, that I'm choosing him over some of the other guys like Murray and all that, is that, Murray as well as Trae Young, they're showing so far that they're more of a scorer than actually doing all the other necessary things that I like to see here at DFS Zone. And myself personally, I like to see guards, point guards and shooting guards. I like to see everybody do it, but point guards and shooting guards more so. I want to see them pass the ball a little bit more. I want to see them being able to score, but at the same time be able to get some rebounds, get dirty, play some good defense, move your feet, use your hands, and try to get some steals. And this is something that this kid does. I mean, he's been doing it just about right. 5 get 5 rebounds in the last game, 3 assists, 2 steals, and 1 block. And then he did it the prior game as well. 4 assists, 6 rebounds, 1 steal, and 3 blocks. I mean, if you continue to do that, you're always going to have, in my book, you're always going to be, I'm going to always check you off and put you in my player pool. So he is someone that I'm definitely considering today at 6K. I didn't mention he's sick. He's 5,300 on DK. So sorry about that. 5,300 on DK. So you need pretty much 26 there. So I mean, he's going up against San Antonio. They're 6th in defending the point guards thus far this year, giving up 20. They're also 24th in fantasy points per game allowed to point guards thus far this year. They have allowed 28.4 fantasy points per game. They did give up 38 to Fox, 35 to Mr. Paul, 33 to Mr. Augustin, and 42 to Drew Holiday. So, again, this kid is not in the Paul or Drew Holiday, skill set, but he is someone who's getting the minutes and is being a part of the offense right now, and the team is playing well with him on the court. I expect him to still play over 30 minutes, and he has shown that he can at least get you in the mid-30s. So I'm willing to take a stab at that, and if he can at least meet value for me on a small slate like this, I'll be more than happy. But I think he's not only going to be able to meet value, I think he's going to be able to exceed it. I could see him getting 35, possibly even 40 in this matchup today, which is supposed to be, should be a competitive game, okay? We go to shooting guard. Now, again, I'll have some faith that there are a couple of guys that I like here that I will be taking I'm going to put in some of my lineups. I mean, Quinn Cook is definitely someone you got to consider in a competitive game against Houston. He's been getting. And then, of course, if Atlanta gets really run out, if you really want to take some chances, obviously Jeremy Lin is someone you should consider as well, especially if Denver really pulls away in this game. Jeremy Lin can get a lot more minutes on the floor. And then you also have to consider, even in the San Antonio game, you got to consider either Mr. Forbes or Mr. Mills. Either one of those two may be some viable budget plays, so you can go that route as well. So we're going to pencil in here as the first guy is Mr. Alexander. Now we go over to shooting guard. And at shooting guard, again, you got Mr. Harden. I will have some exposure to Mr. Harden. I'm not going to make him a core play here in today's video as far as the stud is concerned. I'm going to try to leave the lineup open and leave that for you guys to actually, put some lineups together with the 4 or 5 or the 6 plays I give you. James Harden is definitely someone I'm going to play in some of my lineups because I do play more than a few lineups. I don't play just one lineup. So James Harden at 11,700. I'm more in favor of him than Durant just simply because he's at home and he's actually been able to put 50s a few times against Golden State last year. So Harden is in play for me. I will have a little exposure to DeRozan on the road versus the Clippers because I expect this game to be a competitive game, but I'm not going to recommend him to you guys today. Klay Thompson is the same thing here. No Steph. If they man down and they really, really play some good defense on Kevin Durant, which is very much possible their game plan for Houston, Klay Thompson's going to get, 20, 25 shots, and I could see him getting a little bit more usage out of his time on the floor. So he may be someone to consider here. His price is high, but he has been playing well. All right. I'm going to come down all the way to Lou Will, and I also think that Kent Bazemore, you got to have some exposure to him too at 6,300 in a game where if they get a little bit out of hand, I could see Bazemore still being on the court, especially if the game is close. I could see Bazemore still being on the court and being a very big part of Atlanta's success. If they could stay close in this game, it's going to have to come out of Mr. Bazemore and Mr. Trae Young, as well as Mr. Prince, like I've said before in some of the other videos pertaining to Atlanta. But I am going to try to avoid this game altogether. But Lou Will has been playing well. He's starting to show the Lou Will from last year, which I went to a lot of times last year, and he definitely came through for me several times last year. I even lost track. He's starting to get going now, man. He really has been. He's trending upward. His price is coming up. He's at 6,800. You need about 34 here on Fanduel. On DK, he is 6K on the nose. You need 30 there. And 19 points, man, almost 20 points a game. Now, one thing about Lou Will is that he's going to score points. He's a scorer. And that's the one thing also about this shooting guard selections that we have here on this slate today. Not a whole lot, because everybody that is on here is pretty much a shooter, other than maybe DeMar DeRozan with his defense. Kent Bazemore is not a bad defender, so I will probably put him in that category too. That's why I'm mentioning him as someone that I'm going to have exposure to as well at 6,300. But Lou Will is just something, he came through for me several times last year. I've played him once or twice this year. He's done well for me this year as well. And he is playing so much better right now that I'm going to have to give him a shot here again today. But 19, 2.3 rebounds, 4.2 assists, 28 fantasy points per game, 6,800. Like I said, you pretty much need 34. And he's added 34 better in 2 straight games, 31 to 32 minutes. He's playing more than enough minutes. And we want to see if in those minutes he's getting more than enough shots, and he has been. He just needs to get these shots a little bit down. Now, granted, look, he's been in the green 7 out of the last 8 games, and he's been trending upward from 31 to 32, 34, and 34. He's getting the minutes. The usage rate is there, nearly 30% per game on average, maybe 31, 32%. And then you look at the shots. He's getting more than enough shots. It's just he's not his turnover, his field goal percentage is not converting over with these shots. I mean, 4 of 17, 5 of 15, 8 of 22. I mean, he's getting more than enough touches. We just need them to come down. He needs to just bury these shots a little bit more. He's taking his threes. He's taking about 4 or 5 threes per game, only hitting 1 3 at a time. If he can get 5 out and be able to put 3 through, he's going to just automatically. Yeah, it comes to show you that definitely the upside is there. His price tag has moved up $300 from his last game, but he is capable of getting you nearly 50 fantasy points. I've seen him do it all throughout last year. And the other thing also that he brings to the table is the assists, and he can get a couple of rebounds, and at least he'll defend a little bit. He has 3 steals over the last 2 games. So Lou Will is definitely someone to consider here today. Going up against San Antonio, 21st in defending shooting guards, 27th in fantasy points per game allowed to shooting guards. So they're right down there near the bottom. They're giving up about 27.5 fantasy points per game. They did give up 35 to Mr. Booker in the last game. In the last game that they played, 27 to Mr. Heed, 46 to Mr. Harden, 30 to Mr. Ellington, 34 to Fournier, and 44 to Mr. Oladipo. So, again, Lou Will being a scorer, and I would say more scoring dependent than anything else. In this slate, just as well as Klay, definitely have those upsides because they're scorers that if they can just get a couple of steals, a couple good plays go their way and start, and really not only that, just their shots go down, they're going to get fed more balls and more opportunities to put more points. I think maybe Kent Bazemore, like I said, could be a very nice play here, especially if Atlanta can keep it close. He's going to need to play well, and he actually is not a bad defender. He at least will make an effort to rebound the ball, pass the ball to other teammates, and as well as be able to do those little dirty things like get some steals and possibly some blocks. So we're going to pencil in Lou Will. Again, I have some exposure to Mr. Harden, and I will have some exposure to Mr. Bazemore. Small forward, the only one guy that I will probably consider from Denver is Gary Harris. Now, again, Kevin Durant, I don't think I'm going to be on Kevin Durant at all today. But if I can make a studs and scrubs lineup here, which I think I can, then there will be some exposure to Mr. Durant just for the heck of it, just to see if he can definitely give you 55, 60 here, which he's going to need about 57 to meet this price, which is pretty hefty. But we're going to go to Gary Harris. And Gary Harris, just simply because he's just, right now Denver is playing so well defensively, but every one of their key players, Jokic, Harris, as well as Millsap, and even Mr. Jamal Murray, are all been very erratic, very inconsistent. They've been scoring, and they've been scoring enough to win games, but these guys have been so inconsistent. I think Gary Harris, at least for today, just simply because he has done well against this team in the past, is one of the reasons why I've selected him as a possible stud here. All right, 16.9, 17 points per game, 3.6 rebounds, 2.5 assists, about 3 assists a game. As you can see, his numbers with rebounding and assists. These guys are all very scoring dependent. That's the only thing that kills Denver, is that they got a lot of scoring dependent players. The best player they probably have is Mr. Jokic. 30 fantasy points pretty much for Mr. Harris. At 7,000, you need 35. And on DK, he is 6,100 on DK. You only really need 30 there. So I love that number there. I know he can definitely get there. He has been trending downward. As you can see, 4 straight games at about 22 to 28 fantasy points per game. But like I said, he had some success against this team last year. And this team really is struggling. As you can see, 28th in defense against small forwards. And granted, he's playing out of position. He is basically a shooting guard, but because of the injuries to Will Barton and so on and so forth, they have moved him in the 3 spot. The minutes are there. I'm not concerned with that. The usage is there as well. As you can see, he's about 21, 22%, maybe 23% usage rate if you calculate these numbers here. And then the shots, he's getting about 13 or 14, maybe 15 shots. I would say more like 14 shots per game. If he can just bury a few more, get that field goal percentage up near 50% or better, he's going to definitely put up a lot more fantasy points. His threes have been okay as of late, 3 of 6 and 2 of 6. He's getting to the foul line. He's not a bad free throw shooter, so that definitely helps. But he needs to do a little bit more rebounding, more assists, and he is capable of getting steals. And this is one of the reasons why I have him here, not only because of the success he has had against his team over the last 2 meetings, which I can show you right here, 44 and 32 last year against Atlanta, but more so because of the factors that he can definitely do some defense. He definitely defends fairly well. He'll get his steals. He's had 7 steals in the last 2 games. All right, so definitely not a bad. And on top of that, Atlanta is not one of the better passing teams in this league, near the bottom in almost a lot of categories. So I definitely like Mr. Harris here. And like I said, Atlanta coming in, not that great. 28th, as you can see there. They have given up 29.6 fantasy points per game to small forwards thus far this year. So more of the reasons why I like Mr. Gary Harris here. So Gary Harris, we'll pencil him in there as the small forward for the time being. We'll go to power forward. Now, again, like I said before, I'm going to have some exposure to Mr. Durant if I can do studs and scrubs. And then on the bottom tier here, obviously, Juancho Hernangomez. I went to him the other day. I recommended him, and he did fairly well. As a budget play, his price is up now. And you got a couple of guys here you can watch out for. Cunningham in this situation as well, and Ennis for Houston are in play, and as well as Mr. Bunbury. So for Atlanta, especially if Atlanta really, ends up getting blown out here, you can see him get some more minutes. All right, let's go to power forward. At power forward, you could vouch for Aldridge. I'm not a big LaMarcus Aldridge fan. You're probably not going to get him selected by me a whole lot this year. I haven't selected him at all this year at all. He's just, to me, it's just he's like capped for me. He's capped out at that 35, once in a while 40, can get 50. But he's more of a 30 to 35 fantasy point guy to me. I find him to be kind of boring. It's just me, he's not a bad player. He's just, to me, is not an elite player at power forward. And he might be in a best situation here for him playing center most of the time here with this team. They need to get a center. It definitely will open the doors for him a little bit better. So obviously the situation is not good for LaMarcus Aldridge. I am not on him. Tobias Harris is interesting. His price being $100 cheaper than Aldridge, I would probably go Harris more than I would go Aldridge in this matchup, especially that he's also at home. Draymond Green, I'm not going to be on Draymond Green today. I definitely like Montrezl Harrell. At $7,500, his price is going on up, but he is... For his price being $7,500, I'd rather pay $800 cheaper than paying for Harris, or paying $700 or $800 cheaper as well than paying up for Aldridge. I would take this man right here because he is filling in the gap there where the Clippers needed the rebounding, the blocking, playing up under the boards, defending those bigger men. And Mr. Harrell has been able to do that, playing mostly center as many times as he can get on the court. 32. Look at these points, man. 23 and 26 over the last few games. He's averaging 14.5 points, 6.4 rebounds, 1.5 assists, 31 fantasy points per game. At 7,005, you need 37. On DK, he's 6,200. Love him on DK. I had to circle that. He will have exposure for me in one of my DK lineups. So 6,200, you need 31 over there. And this is a very attainable number for him. Very attainable number. Let's go over here to power forward. We'll go to Mr. Harrell. And Mr. Harrell, look at the usage rate, over 20% over the last 3 games, 22 to 23. Look at the numbers. He's been pretty steady, and he's actually been trending upward. Slowly but surely. His price tag went up a whole $1,000 for this game since his last game. And it's obvious because he put up a 46 spot in the last game. And on top of that is a 3-game slate. So keep that in mind. But nonetheless, it's not going to sway me away from him in this game here. This game is going to be won and lost for this team right here up front with him and Mr. Harris. And I am willing to go with him being $800 cheaper to put up a good 40 spot or better for me and meet and exceed value. And I think he can definitely do that here. 12 to 13 shots over the last few games. He's been, and then look at the 10 out of 13, 9 of 12. Everything is all right there in the paint, and he is able to bury those all day long with his physical attributes. Then you got his feet. He gets to the field goal free throw line often because he is a very physical guy. He got 7 rebounds in the last game, 9. He doesn't pass the whole ball a whole lot because when he has the hands on his ball, it's for him to put it up. That means he's in a good situation to be able to take those shots, and that's the reasons why he doesn't have to really pass the ball back. But he gets the blocks, man. 7, 8 blocks in the last 3 games. Those are the things that I love to see as far as getting fantasy points. Somebody that can score a little bit, get a ton of rebounds, and is able to do some other things like get some steals and some blocks, all additional fantasy points for us. And he's been shooting, and he's been scoring at double digits like crazy. 23 floor points, 26 the game before that, 19. I like Mr. Harrell. I like him a lot here, man. His home and away splits have been good, too. 71% field goal percentage at home thus far this year and averaging 30 fantasy points. Going up against San Antonio, like I said, they have had a couple issues in some areas, and this is one area that they're going to have some issues. 19th in defending power forwards thus far this year. They are 24th in fantasy points allowed to power forwards this year, allowing nearly 30 fantasy points per game. They did give up 32 and 43 to T.J. Warren. They gave T.J. Warren 43 last night. Mr. Aaron Gordon put up 37 on them. You got Mr. Meritic put up 43, and Mr. Doncic put up 46. So, definitely Mr. Harrell in a pretty good spot here to be able to put up some serious numbers. So I like him there. I'm going to pencil him in. I think he's going to be definitely someone that I'm not going to change out of my lineup today. As you can see so far, we got 3 Clippers here. At center, it's not much to choose from. This is the whole thing with center today, folks. Jokic is a game-time decision. Alex Len is a game-time decision. I'm going to mention Clint Capella here because obviously he's the best possible play out of the stud guys. But I do not love the whole matchup for Clint Capella against Golden State. He has not put up big numbers. Never really has had great games against Golden State. And at the same time, he is just, he's pretty much not been playing that well. 35, maybe 40 fantasy points. This is a big number for him. We need to get 40 at 8,100. And I just, as you can see, he's been slightly under 40. He's only been at 50 once and been at 40 just twice this year. Now, granted, this 39.8 is pretty much a 40. But it's just, for me, it's not enough. But today, because of the small slate and knowing that maybe there's no Jokic. Now, if Jokic is in play, I don't think I'm going to even play Jokic today. 9,700, I could pay down. And if he's having some sort of illness or some sort of injury that they have undisclosed right now, I'm willing to fade him. It's the same thing with Alex Len. He has an ankle injury. Even if Alex Len plays today, chances are I will have more exposure to Miles Plumlee. And if either one of these 2 guys are out, Jokic or Mr. Len or both, I'm going to definitely favor the 2 brothers, the Plumlee brothers, Mason and Miles. So it's just a matter of whom you want to pick, but they're both at budget price. I think Mason is at 3,700 and Miles at 35. But getting back to Clint, I'll be willing to take a stab on Clint right now at this very moment with maybe a little exposure to Harden and pairing them 2 up as opposed to Paul. Let's go over to the cruncher. the Fantasy Cruncher. And if we look at Clint Capella, I mean, look at these numbers. Nothing impressive over the last 6-7 games. I mean, his last 50 point in the green, as far as him paying off value, was all the way back here on November the 2nd. That was nearly 2 weeks ago. So, I mean, he has played about 7-8 games since then. The minutes are there. No concern with the minutes. Usage rate, we don't expect him to have high usage when he's on the court. He's another guy that gets a lot of touches right there in the paint where he needs to be at. But 11 of 15 in the last game, not bad. Only 39 fantasy points because he just didn't do enough of the other things. We need him to get them blocks. We need him to get steals. We need him to get tons of rebounds. He needs to do that. And my concerns with that is that he hasn't been doing a whole lot of that. His last big rebounding game was right here, 3 games back, where he had 17 total rebounds, where he had 8 offensive rebounds, which is incredible. Obviously, some of those shots up close for him were right there. But again, I mean, I'm willing to take a stab at him because he has 50-point upside. He could get us 39, 40. He can get us close to his price tag in a slate like this and in a competitive game. All right? That's the only reason why. Not so much so that he has dominated against these guys, because he haven't. Now, again, going back, I will not. I'm gonna put him in there right now. But by the end of the day today, if Jokic is ruled out or Lin, I'm automatically am going to remove Capella, and I'm going to play one of the brothers here. If it happens to be Jokic, I will play Mr. Plumlee. And that's going to open up the doors for $7,200 to play around with here, and you may be able to get Mr. Harden in here for sure, or Mr. Durant. And I will probably tell you to favor more Harden because he is at home. And you may be able to get another nice solid play here. You could go with the two Clipper guys if you wanted to, with Tobias Harris and Harold, because Harold plays a lot of the 5 right now. Okay, so you could go with that with that scenario. But that's where I'm at as far as center and all the other positions. Now let's just do this. Let's go over to the Cruncher, and just for the first time ever right here, because it's a 3-game slate, I'm going to put a couple of guys together. Let's put in here that the 2 Mason brothers are available in this player pool. Let's throw in there Mr. Capella. And we'll throw in there Jokic and see what it comes out with at the moment. At power forward, we'll go Harris, Harrell. Millsap is definitely someone to consider. Lyles. And I will probably go Spielman. Small forward, let's go Harris, Gallinari. I don't know about Durant. Let's go Taurean Prince. Let's go Juancho, Bunbury. I'll say Cunningham as a budget play is in a good spot. And I don't know. Throw in there Ennis. Let's see what comes up here. And then shooting guard, Harden, DeRozan, Clay, Bazemore, Lou Will. Monty Morris, Eric Gordon, and we'll go all the way down to Iguodala as well. Point guard, not in favor of any of these guys, but we'll throw in there Jamal Murray because it's a good GPP play going up against 28th defense. And we'll throw in there Young due to the fact that he needs to score. Quentin Cook. We'll go White. We'll go Alexander. And go Lin. And we'll go, I would say, Patty Mills. All right, and let's do 30 lineups. Let's do 50 lineups. Let's do 50 lineups, and let's see what percentages we get here. Okay, automatically it's telling me, as you can see here on the screen, it's calculating. We're at 23 lineups. We'll wait to 50, and we're going to see what kind of lineups it pops up in here. Bear with me. I know the video is long for a 3-game slate, but I figure I change things up once in a while. When it's a 2-3-game slate, I'll do something like this just to help you guys out, just to give you guys a little bit more, and also how the Fantasy Cruncher works. If you guys are interested in that, the link is down below in the video description if you want to be able to use this type of software. So it comes up here 92% out of the 50 lineups, Gallinari. And granted, I did not mention Gallinari. You got James Harden at 90%. Jamal Murray at 88%, Gary Harris at 80%, Millsap 64%. So you got 3 of the key players for Denver up in the top. Quinn Cook, 64%. Plumlee, 52%. Harrell, 42%. So it comes to show you. I gave you Harrell. I gave you Harris. I mentioned Harden. I mentioned the Plumlees. And that's pretty much it. So it comes to show you. So the first lineup they have here, they got Murray, Cook, Harden, Iguodala, Harris, Gallinari, Harrell, Millsap, Plumlee. Not bad at all, especially if there's no Jokic. If there's no Jokic, I'm okay with Mason Plumlee, especially if we know he's going to play 25 minutes or better. I would be definitely interested in Mason Plumlee or Miles. They do have Jokic here in this third lineup with Spillman, Millsap, Juancho, Gallinari, Iguodala, Harden. Not too keen about that lineup. This one here is not too bad with Jamal Murray and Cook. Definitely a big GPP play in Murray. As we know, I already mentioned, is very inconsistent. But he is at home, and he can get you 50, 55. Any given night, he can explode if his shots are going down. Gary Harris, I definitely do like. Harden, I can live with. Harrell, as you know, I really like as well. And I'm okay with Millsap. That price tag for Millsap is pretty darn good. He can get you 50 as well. He just definitely needs to, shoot better as well. But that's pretty much it, man. I figure I'd throw that a little bit of lineup there. So, again, this fifth spot here is up in the air. Either Clint Capella, or if Jokic or Lin is out, I'm definitely going to come down to the Plumlees. I'm going to come down. If Jokic is playing, then I'll definitely pivot over to Miles Plumlee. If Lin is out, and vice versa, I'll take Mason if Jokic is out. And if I had a choice between both, because both of those guys are out, then maybe I'll sprinkle in a little bit of both in my lineups, because I usually do about 6 or 7 lineups per night. So I'll probably will do half Mason and then half Miles. But I will definitely open it up and just pay down at center today if those two big guys that I mentioned are out, in Mr. Lin and in Mr. Jokic. All right, guys, that's pretty much it, man. Those are the 5 that I got. Let me throw in here Capella one more last time. If you go with these 5 here, you got 6,100 to play with. I could definitely tell you right now, there's a couple you could definitely pay that. You could get 2 guys at budget price that may get more than 20, 25 minutes, and especially keep an eye on that Atlanta-Denver game. If you're going to eye the Atlanta-Denver game, I would not load up on the Denver players. Probably choose more 1 or 2 plays of guys like Lin or something like that from Atlanta, at least in my opinion. I'm more so in looking at San Antonio, LA, and Golden State and Houston, and getting at least 3 and 3 or maybe 3 and 4 from each of those games, and then maybe coming back to the Denver-Atlanta game for 2. I mean, you could go, it's a lot of ways to go. Let's put it that way. I start playing around with this thing. I start playing around with the Fantasy Cruncher, and by the time you know it, I narrowed this player pool down to about 15, 16, 17 players. Right now, the player pool is at 31 players, So at 31 players from 60, that you're working halfway. Now it's just a matter of just breaking that down. And then you look at some more statistical stuff. So that's some of the stuff that I go through. It's just, again, it's just to be able to share some of that stuff with you guys who are new to NBA DFS and I'm not familiar with the Fantasy Cruncher. And the Fantasy Cruncher, you can do a lot more other things than just this. I mean, you can just, you have advanced options here where you can just, set up, I want stacks of this team and that team, and they'll pair you up with those stacks of players. It's just, it goes on and on. It's a lot of little things, but that's pretty much where I'm at, ladies and gentlemen. And again, small slate. Wish you guys luck, man. Drop a like on the video. Again, down in the description, there's the Fantasy Cruncher link is there if you want to do that. I'm going to put a new link to this video for the Slack chat. I keep forgetting that the Slack chat is only 24 hours when I give you the link. So for every video, I got to put a new one. I will have a new one in there attached to this video. And, of course, we can always comment in the video here down below. We can go back and forth regarding the slate. And, of course, at Slack, about an hour before tip-off, we basically get together and we start talking there as well. So, get the link and come on down and hang out with us for a little bit tonight before the game starts. All right? Other than that, wish you guys a lot of luck. Drop a like on the video. Subscribe if you haven't done so already. And again, don't forget to put on those post notifications. This way you don't miss out on any of the videos of the NBA or NFL that I may post up anytime, any day. All right, guys? Have a great day. I'll see you guys on the next video.